Hello, my name is Jasmine and I'm an illustrator. Welcome to my channel. For today's vlog, we're going to continue to document this journey of me writing my medieval comic, Girl Night, which eventually, once I finish fully writing it, I will draw. But that is much later in the future. Where I'm at in the story in terms of writing it is the semi to last part, or the climax. And I gave myself April 1st as the due date for the entirety of Act 3. And today is March 22nd, Tuesday. So we have 8 days for me to finish this section. And I feel pretty good because I believe we're pretty much like halfway done with this section. So if I keep at it this week, I'm on schedule. My hair's not making any sense today because I plan on showering, but I wanted to go for a run first in the evening, so this is what we're gonna work with for today. I've moved the party to the desk only because I just got tired of working in the kitchen and I'm a little bit stuck. I'm right smack in the middle of the climax, and I wrapped up a section of a mission that they were doing, and I don't know how to proceed. I do know where eventually it's going to lead. Something has to, like, the grand culmination is very near, but how we're gonna get there, it's very fuzzy. I really don't know how. I also had an idea the other day when I was in the middle of writing this one scene that I finished, where one of the characters does something bad, and I loved it. It was actually very much in line with their character. That now that I see that, I can't unsee it, and now we're gonna have to work with the scene moving forward with that person having done that. Does that make sense? I'm in the dark. I don't know where we're supposed to go from here for the next 3 scenes, basically. Lately, with all the writing that I've been doing, I realized that whenever I get to this point, it means we need to go back to the outline and go heavily into detail on sequence of events, because pantsing and discovery writing can really do so much, and I'm stuck. So what I'm going to do right now is play some music, look at my outline, and go beat by beat a sequence of what is supposed to happen so that I can get a clear idea of the trajectory, and then we can go back to writing. So it's 10:30. I'm very sleepy even though I had coffee, but now we're gonna have pumpkin tea and see how this goes. It is almost 1 o'clock and I've written 1,000 words, and I am really slowing down. Jonathan got me this all the way from Miami last year, so I'm finally trying it out. It's been too cold to want to drink iced coffee. I'm not really into iced coffee. But this one is café con leche from Café Bustelo, so I don't know. It's probably gonna be bomb. Wow. It's like dulce de leche. That is really good. Yep, it was worth the journey. So one big update that I have about the story in general is, if you've been following my vlogs, which I highly doubt that, one of my biggest issues was figuring out my main character's entire character arc. There's just too many scenarios and I haven't been able to make sense of them or decide to pick one, right? All of February I struggled with this issue because I knew that starting Act 3 I really did need to figure out her backstory, and for the most part I think I got like 80% of her situation down, but I knew that it wasn't quite tight enough. But I still trudged forward because a whole month had passed and I hadn't written in Girl Night, and you just need to move forward, and so that's what I chose to do. And we're almost at the end of Act 3. Have I become more comfortable with my main character's backstory and her overall development? No. So over the weekend I finished reading this book. I had gotten to about halfway through it and we had a Sunday afternoon free, and I figured, why don't I finally just finish this thing? And boy am I glad that I did, because I did not know that this author was going to go over different types of character arcs. For this entire, like this much of the book is just one type of character arc, and I hadn't finished through it, so I had no idea that they were going to go over more. The second type of character arc that they went through, that I read about on Sunday, was the flat arc, which means that the main character doesn't necessarily have a big character growth, it's the world around them that changes. And that is actually a more popular type of character arc in action movies or fantasy, because the focus is more on the world building and the character, we're just kind of going on the ride with the character. It's also popular in dystopias too, where it's the character's lack of growth that helps them stick to their beliefs and change the world around them for the better. So that actually really resonated with my story. One of the issues is, what is Alice supposed to learn in this entire adventure in the Middle Ages? And honestly, a part of my message in the story is not necessarily through Alice, it's the world around her, the violent and the cruel world that was a big aspect of the Middle Ages. So when I finally got to the pink tabs of this book, I genuinely felt validated and something clicked. Finished the book, and the problem that I've been facing with my main character's backstory, it's very clear now what the issue is. And let me show you. Let me pull this out. So the pink tab is the flat arc. The yellow tab, the biggest portion of this book, covers the positive change type of character arc. And this is about, what does the main character learn throughout their entire journey. They obviously carry with them a lie, and then at the end of the story they believe in a truth, capital T, and they've rejected the lie. That is like the most basic form of telling what that type of character development is. So I listed the trajectory of Alice's journey, or at least the different versions that I've had in my head, and I figured out that I have been juggling 4 different character arcs for my main character. 4. For example, one of those, that she starts off as a shy girl, surrounded by a very violent family, and then through tragedy she has to rescue her brother and fight off and develop her own internal strength, and at the end she is no longer a shy person. That's like the most basic. I just gave you like a horrible summary of it, but that's one version of her character development. I have 3 other ones that are entirely different from that. The opposite of that would be that she's actually a very proud person who is equally violent as her brothers, but in like a cool way, not in like a cruel, villainous way. It's more like they're all bros. Basically just goes on through this journey staying strong. There isn't that much growth in her. It's more like the people around her, they end up believing in her. So that would be more of the flat arc. The first one was the first one was a positive change. So those are totally different arcs. And there's 2 more of those. No wonder I've been struggling with that portion, and I've been confused, and there's times that I don't want to write because I am lost when it comes to Alice's portion of the story of how is she going to respond to certain characters? How is she going to decide things? Is she a victim, or is she making all these decisions and being overly proactive? That I figured out yesterday, so it's still pretty fresh. Have I made up my mind on which arc we're gonna move forward with? That's precisely why I just slowed down right now, because we finished a little scene in this big climax, and I need to decide how is Alice going to react, because this is important. I've spent the past 45 minutes dilly-dallying on other things, but while also thinking about the story in the background. And I think what I'm going to do is combine 2 of these arcs. So not only do we get a plot-heavy story, but we do get some character development with Alice. And I think that striking that balance is going to be the challenge, but it will be pretty satisfying, I think. These are all of the notes that I made yesterday at a cafe from this book. So if you're interested in learning more about character development, I would recommend this book 100%. The last portion is covering a villain's arc, which is interesting. Not really something I've been working on lately, so I just kind of glossed over it, but very good. I liked this book so much that I just bought her outlining one too. So, gonna get that in the mail any day now. If you want to know what I think about that one, I'll let you know. So where does that leave us? Like right now, in the present, today. I am still very much hesitant about any writing. It's the usual self-doubt doing its dirty work or whatever. But I refuse to get out of this desk until I make more progress. Like I said, I've written already 1,000 words, so we've met our daily word count goal. But I don't know. I feel like I feel ready. I feel like I'm ready. I'm ready to continue the story. I'm just psyching myself out. So, how much sugar does this have? 24 grams? Look what I just got in the mail. Sometimes I'll buy physical copies of used books instead of ebook if, one, they are cheaper than the ebook, or I know it's gonna be a good book and I'm probably gonna want to read it in physical form so I can annotate it and put little bookmark post-it notes on it. Damn, is this book thick? Look at this thing. It's ginormous. What the hell? Wow, I mean, its thickness is talked about, but this is just, I was not expecting it to be this thick. So I got this book because it is super well reviewed, and everyone keeps telling me I should try Brandon Sanderson's work. I read the prologue on my Kindle and really liked it. So I feel pretty good about jumping into this insanely thick book. But I've also heard that if you're new to Brandon Sanderson's work, you should probably start with Mistborn series. So I just got this in the mail 2 days ago. I haven't even opened it. Now I'm wondering, should I just start with this one or this one? I already got 2 friends of mine to read this with me, but it's probably going to take them a while to even start it. So I think what I'm going to do is start reading this one instead. I have heard that it is an easier read, and to be perfectly honest, I've never read super high fantasy before, so it was a little bit intimidating to even download a sample of this bad boy. And having read the prologue, I didn't find it to be that scary, so I feel pretty good about having gotten a physical copy, even though my bookshelf is going to cry about it because I do not have any room for this one. Usually I put all my novel stuff on this shelf, and it is full. But we will worry about that another day. It's 6 o'clock. We are at 3,100 words. And I just finished writing the cutest scene ever! I have actually been wanting to write this scene for years, and in fact have written this scene a few different times, as in like different versions of it, but none of them felt good, authentic to the characters, you know, not cliched, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So this scene is really unique, but we still have a story to wrap up because we're not quite at the end of it. We still need to face the big bad fully. And also just resolve this whole siege thing. Like, we need to end this siege. And yeah, so there's still quite a lot to write. I'm gonna go for a run, shower, and get ready for day job tomorrow. As well as, and I'm trying to start Mistborn. So I'll see you in the next clip. Hello, it's the next day. I'm back from day job stuff, and I've been writing for 2 hours, and officially have only written 138 words. And that's because I spent a big chunk of that rereading what I've been writing for that siege portion, and I took out a bunch of words. I haven't found any glaring things to fix in terms of like pacing and all that. Either my brain is not ready to revise, or the actual work is pretty tight. I don't know. I don't have any particular feelings about it other than good riddance. One of the issues about this whole section too is just, how do I explain this? Sieges. So sieges, historically speaking, span a long time. On average, sieges took months and months. There are some sieges technically that took years to conclude. Most sieges took more than a day, and yet when you look at Hollywood, like for example in Lord of the Rings, I think it was the second one, where the orcs besieged that big fortress place. I'm really bad with names. That was displayed as taking only a few hours or a couple of days at most until freaking Gandalf arrived. And that's an example of Hollywood speeding things up because sieges aren't as exciting as one would usually want them to be in terms of storytelling. I'm confronting that same issue here where we're at the climax. Things are supposed to be really heightened and active, and it totally goes against exactly what sieges are, which are long, prolonged engagements between two enemies where not a lot happens, but maybe just a couple of spurts of action with siege engines or certain activities that might be exciting in just brief spurts. So I have been trying to figure out how to make this particular siege, short. And the only way that that can happen is someone has to give up. The pressure has to be put in just enough that you have to surrender. There's like lots of itty-bitty little scenes that are supposed to happen within that siege, and to add in the comic 1 month later or 3 weeks later, like, it totally kills a sense of urgency. So we gotta make this siege quick, you know? I have not been able to figure that out. It's been months of being like, I'll deal with it. Maybe I'll read more about sieges, and maybe that will give me ideas as to what's gonna be the thing that closes this siege without them having to surrender. Because historically speaking, that just didn't happen. The only way to stop a siege from the perspective of the people inside the castle is to surrender. Reinforcements come outside and then they push out the enemies. Or third, the enemy leaves. Those are your 3 options. There's not much else. So it's almost like I put myself in a corner because there won't be reinforcements, and I don't think they're gonna surrender. Maybe they will. I haven't figured that out. So something has to happen where it all leads to the final ending that I already know, but it's just like, how are we gonna get from that point to that point? I haven't been able to figure it out. That took forever for me to explain to you. All I wanted to say with that explained is that I figured it out. That's it. Like, I figured it out. Just wanted to explain that so you understood how accomplished I feel right now. Like, the fact, like, we did it. We figured that part out. And it's actually a pretty brutal idea. Like, I'm impressed. I'm impressed at my evil mind to have come up with that, and I'm here for it. So I just listened to a song that was very moody, and it made me think of the last scene before the epilogue. So I jumped forward and started typing stuff. It's a very kind of introspective moment. You know, it's more like word dump. Through revision, it'll have to be refined and then connected to the greater theme of the whole story, and then maybe even echo some words that were provided throughout the story. But who is going to say that? Now, still need to read Christine de Pizan, The Book of the City of Ladies. This is a really cool book, not only into the mind of a medieval feminist, but she talks about female figures in history. She gave this work to Queen Isabeau like early 1400s, so all of the female figures she goes over, I mean, these are like ancient queens and empresses and warrior women. Pretty cool stuff. She also makes arguments against some of the disparaging things that were commonplace in these times, like women are weak-minded and all that. So she argues against that using examples in history, examples from the Bible. So pretty snappy piece of work, and I just haven't had the time to read it. I know reading this is gonna have lots of things I can pull out of it and put into girl night. Just haven't had the time and the mindset. You know, I've been wanting to mostly read fantasy, so I have to go back and continue to do historical research and read this book. But I did flip through some of it while thinking about this last scene in the story. I'm already putting tabs and highlighting stuff, so it's reminding me that this is good. This is a good book. I'm glad I bought it. I got so excited. I got so excited talking about this damn book that I spilled. Anyways, just wanted to interrupt this writing session with yet another book plug. Hello, it's the next day. It's Thursday, March 24. I'm back from day job, doing some doodling and going back to writing. Funny enough, yesterday, during the entire day, I only managed to write 500 words. And then I went to bed ready to continue to read Mistborn, but I kept replaying the scenes that I just wrote. So I whipped out the iPad and continued to write another 300 words. I didn't meet my daily word goal of 1,000 words. In total, it was 800. Sorry to throw you a bunch of numbers, but what I'm trying to say is I kept writing in bed, which is nice because I felt bad that I only wrote 500 words. But as far as Mistborn goes, I'm on page 92 out of freaking 600 pages, so we're not even 1/6 into this book. It's great. The dialogue is great. The concept is great. I do wish there was some romance in it, and I think with Mistborn there is a tiny romance plot, but I do like my romance. Way of Kings, I had to Google it. There is really no romance in Way of Kings. Kinda sucks. I know some people prefer not to read romance in their novels. It's funny how different people are. Everyone's different. I'm still planning on reading it. Just, I think I might have to supplement it with a romance novel or two in the middle of reading it. So for today, we're gonna continue to write through the siege. I left off yesterday right at the inciting incident of the climax, if that makes sense. Like the bad boss battle. That is about to happen, and I am starting where the thing will be announced. Oh my god, I can't talk about it because it's spoilers. But we're almost there. I think I'm slowing down on the writing because I'm psyching myself out. Like, this is the great culmination of the story. We are at the end. Things are being wrapped up. I'm excited and terrified of jumping into this section. I think it's gonna be slow until we reach the end words. It's gonna feel like pulling teeth. It needs to get done because we can't get to the drawing until we're done with the writing. So that's how I'm trying to keep myself motivated, because I'm itching to start drawing this comic, and obviously we're nowhere near the start of drawing this thing, because once I finish writing the script, I'm gonna have to revise it several times. Like, this is just a very rough first draft. Guess what just came in the mail? Another book! Honestly, this vlog is turning out to include a ton of books. Wasn't planning on that, but we talked about how I've been reading this book and I ordered the outline version of it. I want to see what the author has to say about outlining. It's been 40 minutes of writing and I've only written 200 words. Yeah, it is still going very slow. I feel like every little word that I'm putting down feels wrong and not the direction that I should be going. Because again, we're in the climax, so the stakes have to be shown that are really high, the pacing has to be fast, and it has to feel like everything is on the line right now. Like a sense of urgency and almost like terror. And I don't know if I'm accomplishing that. Also because I'm writing these scenes throughout a full week. What might feel to a reader 5 minutes of reading has been feeling like a whole week for me. So it feels like it's dragging on, but considering my low word count, not much has been happening. So I'm concerned that I'm not quite hitting the mark of where I should be in terms of the vibes for a climax. This will be discerned more closely in the revision. I think what I'll do is I'm gonna take a break and start reading this because I can't look at this screen anymore. I think a break will be good. I'm also bringing Mistborn because you can't see me. Look at that, so dark. I'm also bringing Mistborn to the couch because I am really tired from day job. If I can't even make it through that outlining novel book, I think I'm just gonna take a real break and read. Also, this hoodie is probably too much. It's too hot.